Yo! My Adventures with Superman is absolutely amazing. If you have not watched it, please go and watch it. I did a full on short just talking about what I was going to do this week, and I promised that I would do this today. So let's go ahead and talk about my thoughts on My Adventures with Superman. First of all, I am a huge Superman fan. I think some of his stories are well, let's go ahead and just say this. All of his stories go from lackluster to some of the best comics ever made, in my opinion, at least. I think Superman is a very cool superhero. He was the very first superhero, so we have a lot to owe to him, I guess, just as a character. And I think that this series overall did really good at capturing his just everything about him. This is probably my one of my favorite on-screen versions of him. Obviously, I might do a full-on tier list over all of his on-screen appearances, like animated and live action. But yeah, I think this is a very good version of Superman. So without further ado, let's just talk about what I think about the show. So the show starts out with Superman moving to, or not even moving to Metropolis. He lives there with Jimmy, and he goes into a interview or whatever. They are newbies at the Daily Planet. Basically, they're just interns. They go in. He meets Jimmy, and him are best friends already, and he meets Lois. This is probably my favorite version of Lois, like overall, even from the comics and stuff, just because I think this is a really good version of Lois. But then it basically turns into regular Superman with him having to go and get his suit and everything. The Kryptonians are turned into basically kind of like Viltrumites in this, except they eventually get destroyed. And then season 2, which I'll talk about in a minute, has a lot more about Krypton and stuff. Season 1 is basically just villain of the week, and then they introduce the General, which is Lois Lane's father, and he hates Superman because of Zero Day, which was a whole thing with the Kryptonians invading and everything, but it was stopped really fast and everything. And then Amanda Waller is the General's friend and kind of partner, except he thinks he's in charge, but Amanda thinks that she should be in charge. It's a whole thing, man. And then they eventually figure out that a whole bunch of people have been stealing their tech, the government's tech, that is, and all of them turn into new villains. I could honestly make a video talking about each villain individually if you guys want me to, but right now I'll just name them. You've got Heatwave, you've got Livewire, which I was extremely excited to see in the show because I love Livewire, and she shows up almost nowhere, even in the comics. She is basically just a Superman the Animated Series type of character, and then she shows up sometimes in other places. But there are other lightning-based villains that they use more often, to be honest. And then you've also got Banshee, which was a really cool design. I thought she had a really good design. And then you had other ones like, I cannot remember his name. He's basically just a really strong dude. But they are all powered by tech instead of actual superpowers. And then you get, except Livewire, she eventually becomes electricity, basically, because Clark has to stop her and rips out the power core, and it fuses to her. It's really weird. And then you've got, who I think is probably going to be most people's favorite villain, or least favorite, depending on who you are, is Parasite, which is Dr. Ivo in this. If you know who Dr. Ivo is, he is the one that makes Amazo in the comics, and in this he runs Amazo Core, or Tech, Amazo Tech, I'm pretty sure, and that's a whole ordeal as well. And then Superman basically runs him out of business on accident, breaking his parasite suit and everything because he goes crazy and tries to kill him. And then he has a little intern that ends up being Lex in season 2, which is really cool. His name was Alex. And then there's a part later where Jimmy and him are talking, and they go to shake hands, and he goes, "Oh, Jimmy Olsen," and he goes, "Alex," and then he gets called away before he can answer. So he was going to say Alex Luthor, which would have made it way clearer to everyone, but then, he didn't get to say it, so luckily it didn't ruin the whole thing. And then he ends up teaming up with Amanda Waller, but that's later. The General ends up thinking that Superman is kind of a good guy and not wanting to kill him, and then Amanda Waller sets up events that makes the city under perilous danger. And then Superman eventually stops a kaiju-sized parasite, and the General gets fired. goes on the run. There's a whole thing with that. Lois gets mad at him because, daddy issues. Every Lois Lane has daddy issues, though, so it's okay, I guess. And then you also have the Katniss, which was in the comics is just a government sanction thing to stop aliens, and mostly the Justice League. Actually, they really hate the Justice League, but there's no Justice League in this universe, not yet, at least. And it's just that whole ordeal. And then they find the brain, and what is his name? He's a French guerrilla terrorist. Is what he is. In the comics at least, but in this he's just a funny little goofy guy that's a genius, like a literal genius. The brain and him have really good designs, and I think their characters are really cool in this. I'm glad they made them good guys for a change instead of bad guys, because the brain is just perfect for being just a mad scientist. He doesn't have to be evil, just make him freaking insane, and they did pretty good with that. And then they eventually go to a different dimension, and that starts the whole thing with the clan of Loises, or whatever it's called. And then they come capture Clark because, I don't know, man, they think that every Clark is evil, even though it's only some of them. But I mean, it's an infinite amount of universes, so obviously at least a few of them are going to be evil. It just doesn't make sense to me, man. And then there was a really cool scene where Lois gets a little orb that she steals from them, and it shows off a few different universes, and one of them is the red. What is that universe called? What is that one called? It's the one where they're all Nazis. I can't remember the universe name, but yeah, it's his like Nazi uniform, or maybe yeah, they're just straight up Nazis in that universe. Yeah. And then they show off that universe, and there's a few other cool alternate universes. But yeah, I thought the Nazi universe is the one that gets thrown out all the time, though, because the Arrowverse used it. This is using it. I mean, I guess if you want evil villains, there you go. Those are the most evil types of people you can use. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Pretty cool nod to the comics. And then you also have the many different suits for Superman, which I think all look really good. And then season 1 honestly just ends with the whole parasite thing and everything, and Superman and Lois finally actually starting dating. And then season 2 is a whole bunch of drama with their relationship and with Lois's dad, and then basically some Monster of the Week type of episodes. And in between all of that, you also have him thinking about calling his cousin Kara, which he knows exists now, which, for those of you who know from the comics, is Supergirl. And then they meet Brainiac, which is the master computer for Krypton, but he ended up destroying Krypton because he thought that they weren't perfect enough. And yeah, it's basically just that. The the Brainiac Superman suit is absolutely amazing. Best evil Superman version ever. He looks so good, and I really hope we get that in live action at some point, because that would just be sick, with the hair flowing and the Brainiac on his chest and on his forehead looks really good. Just everything about that design looks absolutely perfect. And Brainiac in this isn't bad. He's physically a match for Superman at some points, and he is mentally a match for Superman at all points. And he eventually gets stopped just because Superman and Lois and Kara, all of them team up and have like a friendship is magic type of moment, where they destroy him, and then Kara stays on Earth, and Brainiac is defeated, basically. And then that's how season 2 ends. Yeah. And now I'm waiting on season 3. But yeah, I just want to talk about this series because it's really good. I'm probably going to do full-on episode, videos on the channel just talking about different villains and everything that show up, because some of them have really good redesigns and some of them have really lame redesigns. But yeah, I just thought I would talk about this because I really like this show. It is so good, and you guys need to check it out. And apparently James Gunn announced a My Adventures with Green Lantern, which is going to be about the Jessica Cruz version, which is very good, because I like Jessica Cruz Green Lantern. She does not get enough attention, I don't think. Even in the comics, she doesn't get that much attention, so it'll be really cool. Apparently it's going to be in this universe too, which means we might get a Justice League in this, and I think Jessica Cruz would work very well with this version of Superman as a teammate or something for the Justice League if they do end up creating one. And if they keep with this animation, I think that would work with Jessica Cruz's version of Green Lantern 2. I just think this is really good animation style. Some of the fights are absolutely amazing, especially some of the frames with Brainiac screaming and stuff is just freaking amazing. I had to pause it a couple times just to show my fiance while we were watching it because it looked so cool. Like they had some actual anime like hit frames in there at some points. But yeah, this is just a really cool series with some really likable characters. I didn't even get into Jimmy Olsen. I'm probably gonna do full on videos talking about characters just by themselves though. So I mean that's fine. But yeah, please go and check out this show. It is so good. If you don't like Superman, this will probably end up making you like Superman. So go and watch it, and also like and subscribe and all of that type of stuff. But mostly go and watch this. Okay, see ya. I almost forgot to mention that Steel is in this, and he's actually pretty cool. It's a cool version of Steel. I like Steel. He's a cool character. Yeah, that's it. I just to act like I didn't in that video already. But yeah, I just forgot about him. I might end up having to do a season 1 and season 2 review because there's just a lot of characters and stuff that happens in this for me to get it all in this one video. But I wanted to talk about it at least a little bit. So yeah. Now you can go back and just rewatch where I actually ended the video. Okay, see ya!